This is a talk I prepared for Water Week in working in conjunction with the Lancaster County Conservancy and with the Interfaith Partners of the Chesapeake. And when I did it with them, I had my family with me singing the song, and I am no singer, but I will sing the beginning of it. And the title of this is Trouble the Water or Take Up Your Mat. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. I think you know the song. We all know it. It's an old spiritual based on a scripture verse, but it was used by Harriet Tubman as a freedom song. The words to the song gave guidance around geographical signposts for safe travel to slaves making their way to freedom. The song would tell them to abandon land and move into the water so chasing dogs would lose their scent. They would find safety and freedom in the water. Wade in the water because God's going to trouble the water. The song has its roots in an ancient legend told about Jesus in the New Testament book of John. The story goes like this. In Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there was a pool of water called Bethesda. This pool had 5 porticos, and in these covered porch areas, the sick and disabled gathered, the blind and lame and paralyzed, and basically those who were most marginalized of the community. They were there waiting for the stirring of the water, the troubling of the water. It was believed that water had magical healing abilities, and that an angel of the Lord would come down in certain seasons into that pool and stir the water, and whoever stepped into that water first was made well from whatever ailment they were suffering. There was one such man who had been lame for 38 years, the story tells us. When Jesus saw him lying there, Jesus said to the man, "Do you want to be made well?" And the sick man explained that there was no one to help him to get to the water, that whenever the water was stirred, others stepped down ahead of him and around him, receiving the healing before he had a chance to touch the miraculous water. 38 years he had been ill and trying to get into the water or waiting for someone to help him into the water in order to be healed. Jesus then said to the man, "Stand up, take up your mat and walk." And the story concludes that the man was made well. He stood up and picked up his mat and walked away. Do you want to be made well? Jesus asked. What kind of question is that? Do you want to be made well? I mean, seriously, was Jesus mocking the man? 38 years living in squalid conditions alone, watching people step by him and be healed. Do you want to be made well? Jesus asks. Of course. Of course he wants to be made well. Of course we all want to be made well. I mean, that is, if we are even aware that we are in need of healing. Because sometimes we become accustomed to our illnesses. Even if they are self-created, we have become comfortable with our big vehicles and our air-conditioned homes and our overpackaged lives. Everything we own is supersized, from our homes to our cars to our meals. We have become desensitized to how our lifestyles and how we live affects the rest of the world and everyone else around us. We are in great need of healing. The world is in great need of healing. Our planet is in great need of healing because we are unwell on many levels. We can begin by looking at our own hearts. Who here isn't tired? We are angry and tired of the violence and injustices we see around us every day. Our hearts are hurting, and we need healing in the depths of our own physical bodies and our spiritual souls. Our communities are struggling. Many of us don't know our neighbors. We don't know where our food comes from. We don't cry with one another and celebrate milestones with one another. And the current pandemic has only compounded our isolation. Perhaps we're challenged to be who we want to be to those we most love, in part because we're so exhausted. Do you want to be made well? Wade in the water. We have a divided nation in need of deep healing. The gap between the super rich minority and the rest of us continues to grow. The top 1/5 of earners in our country earn more than the other 4/5 combined. We watch as the breath is squeezed out of Black Americans at the hands of those who are supposed to be protecting us. White supremacy and violent responses to peaceful protests are condoned from the Oval Office. We're spending taxpayers' money to keep people out of the country by building a devastating wall rather than spending money more on health care for all people in America. We seem not capable of compromising, collaborating, or considering the common good above our own selfish desires. Oh, where is that troubled water so we can wade in it, please? And underneath it all literally is our earth, the precious, beautiful planet that sustains us all, even our selfish human antics. Just this week, the last Arctic ice shelf in Canada disintegrated. It's gone. Many of you already know the damage the fossil fuel industry continues to do to our water and our air and our bank accounts, as our government continues to use our money to subsidize this obscenely immoral industry. And the extinction of species is the new fear for our future, with an expectation of nearly 50% of all present species to be in danger of extinction within our children's lifetime. This is directly tied to the human destruction of habitat, of food chains, and yes, the human contamination and overuse of water. We are in great need of healing. The world is in great need of healing. Our planet is in great need of healing. And healing is at our fingertips, or our toe tips, if we want to stick with our story, right? Do you want to be healed? Do you want to be healed well enough that you would step into that troubled water? Water can heal. I believe in our story. I believe in the healing power of water. I've watched the pepper plants in my garden wilt and weaken when I've forgotten to water them during one of our typical hot, dry summer days. And then when I pour some water into the soil and onto the green leaves, a couple of hours later, they miraculously come back to life, perky and bold and healthy again. Water is magical. It is healing. Our story today is not just a story. Water is life. Mini Wakoni. This is a foundational truth that Indigenous people around the world have not lost sight of. They brought this truth to the attention of the rest of the world when the fossil fuel industry threatened the water supply of an Indigenous group of people in North Dakota in 2016, the Standing Rock Sioux. Their resistance showed up by the thousands to protect the water. And the Dakota Access Pipeline installers knew their pipeline was at risk, but obviously water was not valued enough by our regulatory agencies nor our government to stop that project. A little closer to home, we know this disregard for water right here in Pennsylvania. The number of active fracked gas wells in PA today is about 10,500. Each of these wells will consumptively use 2 to 6 million gallons of fresh water, pollute that water with chemicals during the extraction process, never allowing it to return to that water cycle that we all depend on. We only have so much water on our planet. Where is God troubling the water? Because we need to find it. We need to step into it. We need to bathe in it. Friends in Union Hill, Virginia have been fighting to stop the Atlantic Coast Pipeline for the past 6 years. Communities banded together there, from the Baptist congregations to Hindu ashrams. They came together with the shared value of protecting the earth, the air we breathe, the water we drink. And at the beginning of July, just this year, Dominion Energy and Duke Energy walked away from the project. Despite all their billions of dollars, they were unable to compete with the power of a united community. Last year, friends in Toledo, Ohio, were so tired of the government not taking necessary steps to protect the waters of Lake Erie. They voted to grant the lake legal rights of nature. Lake Erie provides water to more than 400,000 Americans. It may seem odd to give a part of the natural environment legal rights of personhood, but it's far less bizarre than the idea that corporations should enjoy the same status of personhood. Too many of us have grown up in an anthropocentric intellectual tradition that treats the natural world as an object to be examined and exploited for human use, rather than as something sacred of God to be communed with and respected. And what about our own community? If you were able to participate in the walking tour during Water Week through Lancaster City, you saw individuals and religious congregations stepping into the water to be healed and to heal. You saw rain barrels and rain gardens diverting water to drain back into the earth rather than to run off into the Conestoga and overwhelm the water treatment plant there. It's within our grasp to reconnect to the earth and the power of the life-giving water that she provides for us. Let's look at our story again. We could be on the cusp of a healing paradigm shift. Our story provides more than one way for us to experience healing. We could sit in the portico, waiting for the angel of God to trouble the water and hope that we are the first to step into its healing presence. This is valid. This is healing. Or we could fend off the others who would walk by that same man for 38 years, who would overtake him in pursuit of their own healing. We could help him to the water for his healing. But who knows the mind of the angel of God? How often will it come? I wonder if sometimes we might become paralyzed in our waiting for others to intervene on our behalf. Maybe it's time to stop waiting. Maybe we have to stop waiting for God to trouble the water, or the government to pass the next law to protect the water, or for the regulatory agencies to stop doing the bidding of the industry and start limiting the destruction of water. Maybe we have to stop depending on someone else in power to do something so we can claim our healing. Remember the story, the rest of the story. Do you want to be made well? Jesus said. Take up your mat and walk. We have agency. We can make personal changes that make a difference. We work for companies and industries. We have influence. We can vote. We have hands and bodies to join with others to stand between the land and destructive bulldozers. We can be the catalysts of change in our homes, in our workplaces, in our places of faith, in this community where we live. Yes, depend on the healing power of that troubled water. Yes, help carry our friends to the water's edge so they too can be healed. But also, do you want to be made well? Then let's take up our mats and walk, my friend.